Now, the Prime Minister's been addressing a United Nations summit in New York on the international migration crisis. It's the first one of its kind, actually. It's going to try and come up with a collective plan to deal with the record number of refugees and migrants who are currently on the move. Theresa May spoke in the last half an hour and expressed concern about uncontrolled migration.
Of course, controlled, legal and safe migration benefits our economies. And there is nothing wrong with the desire to migrate for a better life. But the uncontrolled migration we see today is not in the interests of migrants who are exposed to danger, not in the interests of the countries they are leaving, travelling through or seeking to reach, and not in the interests of refugees for whom resources and popular support are reduced.
Well, Ahmed is from Aleppo in Syria. He's been living in the UK since last summer and has been granted a legal asylum to stay. Ahmed, hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Tell us about your journey, because you didn't have a legal status when you first arrived. How did you get here?
Sadly, I had to come to the UK illegally because there was no legal way for me to come to this country. So I had to take the legal way through smugglers, human traffickers, crossing from from Syria to Turkey, and from Turkey to Greece on a rubber dinghy, and from there to France in Calais. Then I crossed to the UK in the back of a lorry.
Did you do all of that with the expectation that you would make it to the UK and you would then be granted asylum, or did you never know? Was it a gamble?
To be honest, the moment when I left my home in Syria was a gamble. So imagine like you're leaving your own town in Aleppo under shells, under bombs, airstrikes, and when you cross the road, you're crossing radical groups, so ISIS knives and other radical groups. And when you get to the border, you're crossing the Turkish borders, you're under the danger of being shot dead. And every single step of the road was a gamble till you get to your last destination.
And now you're here and you were granted legal asylum to stay. You're really establishing yourself now. You're starting a master's degree soon, aren't you?
I'm starting a master's degree in violence, conflict and development next week. And that's why I'm hoping to get academically qualifications. So hopefully when the war is over in Syria, so I can go back and help rebuild the country.
On that point, I hope you don't mind me asking, because whenever we have a conversation like this, people will always text in and they're always interested to know why people like you don't stop in the first safe country, why you choose to make a life in a particular place. What was it that drove you to the UK in particular?
For me in particular, I moved from Aleppo to Iraq. First of all, I moved to Iraq in late 2012 till 2014, and at that time I was living near the city Mosul when the city fell for ISIS within 7 hours. So being in Iraq was literally like being in Aleppo or being in Raqqa. I thought that I left Aleppo, I left Syria for safety, but sadly things went wrong. And from there I moved to southeast of Turkey, and being a Syrian Kurd was a huge problem for me. Anytime you could be captured, anytime with no legal documentation, you easily could be accused of being a terrorist or a PKK empathizer, which is a lot of, it's not easy, it's very dangerous.
Ahmed, thank you for talking to us. Ahmed from Aleppo in Syria. He was one of those people, you might have seen that demonstration at Parliament Square today with all of the life jackets that were taken and laid out across the grass, the life jacket graveyard. It was all part of leaders' meeting in New York today. As we say, we heard Theresa May earlier for that UN migration summit.